Beautiful, Ginger. Thank you. I love the imagery of that. That's wonderful. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm going to move over to the middle here. Don't want to neglect this side, you know. Well, great to see all of you. Did everybody have enough turkey? Those of you who eat turkey, I'm not eating turkey anymore, but did you have a nice Thanksgiving? Yeah. So many things to be grateful for in our lives, aren't there? Yeah. And this wonderful spiritual community is one of my top on my list, I want you to know. I'm so grateful to be a part of this and get to do what I get to do, which is fun. Yeah. We've been working with a wonderful work called The Creative Life, 7 Keys to Your Inner Genius, and we're tying this in with an understanding of how we are part of the creative process in life, and how we can develop a greater knowing and awareness of that creative power that is working through us, and how we can work with that and play with that and have fun with it, as the song talks about, and to be able to draw into our experiences even more of the blessings of the divine that are always available to us. And I love not only talking about the creative process, but playing with it and having fun with it and learning from it myself and being a part of that and noticing how it works in myself a lot of times. And I find myself drawn to a lot of different things. And we've been talking about the 7 days of creation and a metaphysical understanding of the 7 days of creation. And the author of the book we're working with, Eric Butterworth, is using that as a metaphor to understand the principles that are involved in the creative process and how that creative process works in and through you and I. And that's not something that just simply happened, you know, at the beginning of time. It's something that is continually happening all the time. And it's happening in us individually, but it's also happening in us collectively as well. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. As I came across some different awarenesses, since we're working with Bible stories, I came across some interesting little Bible things. Here's some answers from a quiz in first grade Sunday school class. Lot's wife was a pillar of salt by day and a ball of fire by night. Samson slew the Philistines with the axe of the apostles. And Solomon, one of David's sons, had 300 wives and 700 porcupines. And there was a third grade class that just finished the week's Bible study on the Exodus and entry into Canaan, and the teacher asked the students questions. And Mr. Morkert said, Billy called out to the teacher and said, there's one thing I don't quite understand. And she said, well, what's that, Billy? Well, according to the Bible history book, the children of Israel crossed the Red Sea, right? And the children of Israel fought and won the battle of Jericho, right? And the children of Israel built the temple, right? Yes, right, that's correct, yes. So what's your question, Billy? Well, I'd like to know, where were all the grown-ups? And then there was a story of the youngster who came to Sunday school having been taught the biblical story of the crossing of the Red Sea, and the mother asked him what he'd learned in class, and he told her, well, the Israelites got out of Egypt, but Pharaoh had his army chase after them. And they got to the Red Sea, and they couldn't cross it. The Egyptian army was getting closer, so Moses got on his walkie-talkie, and the Israeli Air Force bombed the Egyptians, and the Israeli Navy built a pontoon bridge so the people could cross. And the mother was shocked and said, is that the way they taught you in Bible school? And he said, no, but if I told you what they really taught us, you wouldn't believe me. So we're working with the metaphysical understanding of the 7 days of creation. And we talked about the first day, let there be light. And we talked about how the first day of creation is light represents awareness. It represents consciousness. And the understanding that one of the first principles of the creative life is first of all recognizing that we are creative beings, that we're participating in the act of creation all the time. And it's an awakening to that awareness that we are participating in that creative process in our lives consistently. And then the second day is let there be firmament, and that's really about having a faith and working with faith. And faith is really much like, an analogy that I've used is much like we tend to think that you have to have a certain amount of faith, but the reality is that we have faith all the time in something. And that we're always using our faith, and the question is not whether we have faith or not, it's what we're putting our faith into. It's the direction that we're pointing it. It's like a flashlight, you have a beam of, you might say, and we have the ability to put our faith into those things that are enhancing and lifting us up in life, or we have our ability to put our faith in those things that are really taking us down or depleting us in life. And we really have a choice in that matter of how we're going to use that. And then the third day, we talk about let there be dry land, and the dry land appeared. And this is about imagination, the ability to bring form into our awareness and to bring something into our consciousness in terms of a form and drawing forth from the invisible into the visible. And then the fourth day, we talked about the two great lights. And for me, what Eric talked about was the two great lights are the faculty we have of our understanding and our will. But what really came to me in my studying and reflecting on it is the two great lights are the sun and the moon. And the sun to me really represents intention and focus and attention. And the moon really represents to me more of a receptive energy. And it's a will, but not a willfulness, but a willingness. It's the ability to allow. And as I was sharing this last week, actually Julie came to me and afterwards and said, well, to me, will is about really your intuition. I mean, the moon represents our intuition. And I agree with that. I think it really is about an awareness of tuning into an inner awareness, an inner knowing, and allowing those things to come into our awareness and to our experience that are really are moving us into an expression of something more, you might say, uplifting or more of value to us in life. And so that made a lot of sense to me. So today we're going to talk about the fifth day. And the fifth day it says, let the waters swarm with swarms of living creatures. Let the waters swarm with swarms of living creatures. When we think about the waters metaphysically, Farrer Fenton, a well-known author and an authority on Hebrew and Greek, in the beginning, he says, in the beginning, God created that which produced the earth. In other words, in the beginning, God created the idea of the earth. And God mind creates ideas. And ideas create thoughts, spiritual thoughts create things. And so what we're really looking at here is an understanding of this symbolism is really, a part of the symbolism of this is divine ideas. And waters actually are talking about and refer to an unexpressed capacity of our mind's unlimited potential. You might say it is that out of which all things are formed. It's a fluidness. It is the living creatures are then also their dynamic thoughts in that possibility, in that potential. And swarming, it's a great image if you think about it. Swarming really indicates the supportive activity of the mind and the creative proliferation, it's easy for me to say, right? The creative proliferation of creative thoughts and ideas. Can you get that image? These are ideas that are really swarming. So one of the things that happens in the creative process, and really this is actually a part of what I think happens when we are involved in creativity, is that there is Eric Butterworth says that water actually also can represent energy. And we know from more recent understanding of awareness that everything is created and formed out of energy, right? So this is an unlimited potential is what it's really referring to. And it really is very fluid, and it really is something that out of which all things are drawn. And so it's really working with that energy and paying attention to what we're drawing forth. We live and move and have our being in this unlimited energy. We live and move and have our being in unlimited possibility and potential as well. And so we are in that act and that process of allowing the potential to come together and to be brought into our awareness. And one of the processes through which we do that is through the process of our thoughts and our thinking. Eric says, when you see the creative process clearly, your ideas will get synchronized with energy of the same frequency, multiplying in kind. This is the swarming process. So think about that in terms of a swarm. What do you know of that swarms? Bees. Yeah. What's that? They can be frenzied, but even in the frenzy, there actually is, if you think about it, there's a flow, isn't there? There's an order. The amazing thing about it, if you think about what swarms, or even another way of thinking about it, what flocks is another way of looking at it also. Think about flocks of geese. It's really fascinating. It's one of the most fascinating phenomena in nature, if you really think about it. All of these amazing creatures acting in many ways as though they are one. Think about that for a moment. Think about that in terms of the creative process. And one of the things what Eric points out that I thought was really fascinating is that when we really look at this understanding metaphysically of ideas, that there is a coming together in a time and a part of the creative process where when you have an idea, an awareness, or an intention, you will sometimes have this flooding in many ways of all kinds of thoughts and ideas. Right? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Sometimes they just start flowing and start popping, and it seems like at times it can be just chaos. Just all kinds of things happening. And so it's really, one of the things Eric says is it's really valuable for you to allow that to happen. It's valuable for you to allow just whatever comes up, what comes to you in life, to flow and to be there. Because what you will find is that eventually there will become together a pattern even in those. And it's a great part of how our mind works. And that there's an understanding that like attracts like, right? Yes. So when you focus in on a particular awareness or idea, let's say it's an idea of how you would like to experience more of, say, health in life. And you may find yourself really thinking of and focusing on that, and what you'll find is that you'll start getting insights and awarenesses that may be related and it may not. It may seem like they have nothing to do with it, but as you begin to be open to that, you'll find that all kinds of insights may come to you, and they eventually become and create a particular way of understanding. And so you can... He says it's in the nature of mind for ideas to attract swarms of supportive and expansive thoughts. And so when we have an awareness or a thought about something, there's a law in the universe that it's been now called the law of attraction, that the thoughts that we hold in mind, in Unity we say it this way, thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. Well, the first thing that the thoughts that we hold in mind produce are other thoughts that are like those thoughts. Make sense? And so as we begin to create those and draw to us those other thoughts, we will actually draw to us thoughts that are in harmony and, as Abraham-Hicks would say, in vibrational alignment with those kinds of thoughts. I talk about it in terms of anabolic and catabolic also. There are thoughts that are anabolic, that are life-enhancing, and there are thoughts that are catabolic, that are life-depleting. And as we hold thoughts that are anabolic, that are life-enhancing, that are uplifting, positive, sometimes we like to call it, we will draw to us even more thoughts that are like that. But if we hold in our awareness thoughts that are catabolic, that are life-depleting, we will then also draw to us thoughts that are life-depleting. And that is the swarming process. Think about that for a moment. It's a great imagery if you really think about it. There are things that will swarm to us and in a way that will enhance and lift us up and draw to us even more resources and more possibilities. And at the same time, when we focus our awareness in ways that we don't want to create, we're still creating. Sound good? Make sense? Yeah. So part of the awareness is paying attention and noticing the energy of that. Thoughts create feelings. Thoughts and feelings create our attitudes and beliefs. Our attitudes and beliefs create our filters of how we experience the world. How we see the experiences in the world attract to us more experiences to validate our attitudes and beliefs. So we create these amazing belief systems, and we believe that that's how the world is, but the reality is, the world is how we see what our beliefs are saying. You don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. And we see them through the filters of our attitudes and beliefs, and those are formed and shaped by our persistent and consistent thinking patterns and the ways that we hold and the energies that we hold in our life. Most creative people are not happy unless they're really trying to solve a problem. So yeah. Yeah, exactly, yeah. They can't look at anything without wondering how it might be changed, improved, adapted, modified, or otherwise tinkered with in some way. Sound familiar? Well, Charles Kettering, the inventor who contributed so much to the auto industry, was that kind of a man. He compared this kind of creative thinking with hanging a bird cage in the mind. I like this imagery. Kettering once bet a friend that if he were given a bird cage and hung it up in his house, that the friend would sooner or later buy a bird. And the man took the bet, hung the bird cage up in his house, in his dining room, and after a period of about a year and everyone saying, "Where's your bird? And why do you have an empty bird cage?" Eventually he felt it was easier simply to go out and buy the bird and lost the bet. That's the way our mind works. If you create the space for it, something is going to be drawn into that space. So we're talking about swarming. Imagine a gaggle of geese flying in tight formation, or a school of millions of minnows. Flocks have a distinctive style of behavior, of fluidity, and a seemingly intelligence that actually transcends the individual member's awareness. This is part of the swarming process also. The swarm is one of the most interesting phenomena in nature. And scientists have really begun to speculate that these moments, these creatures lock themselves into a group soul, or a group awareness, or a group consciousness. It's interesting because they don't run into each other. Do you notice that? It's amazing. You and I run into each other all the time, but in many ways, when we find ourselves locked into a similar kind of awareness, in Unity and many other circles, we talk about this in terms of the mastermind. And there's a great power and energy in a collective awareness where we are in harmony with each other and holding an intention with each other and for each other together. There's a great power in that as well. That's part of the reason why I believe that we flock together here on Sunday mornings, is to see ourselves and experience ourselves in an uplifted way. And we know that we've learned over the years that that's much more powerful and easier to do when we're with others of like heart and mind. Isn't this true? Yes. So it's really valuable for us to learn from this creative awareness of the power of our collective hearts and minds coming together to bring each of us up to another level of the possibilities of our good in life. At first, sometimes, though, when we come together, it can seem like chaos. We've certainly experienced that at different times in life. But there's actually an order even in those experiences, and there's a way that comes together. So it's critical for us to be patient and letting this swarming activity take place, because something greater will come out of that experience as well. And so we are here to really learn to have faith in that awareness of the chaos shaping and forming and coming into understanding of something that is more organized in thought and in manifestation. One of the things that Eric talks about in the book also is this understanding of, how many of you ever done clustering or mind mapping? You know what I'm talking about? That's a pretty common, actually, creative technique nowadays. If you haven't done it, I highly recommend it. It's a great exercise. And the way it works is very, very simple. Just take a piece of paper, and you write maybe a circle, or some people like to do squares. I'm a circle kind of guy. I make a circle in the middle of the piece of paper, and then write a word. And then just free associate. Draw a line out and draw another circle, and just whatever thought, awareness, or word comes to you, write that word down. And just see what other words or thoughts or ideas or phrases come to you about that. That's one of the ways I prepare lessons a lot of times, is I really just start with an idea and just to see what awareness has come to me out of that. It's an associative way of thinking. It's a way of actually collectively coming into an awareness and just letting association happen. And it's a wonderful thing to do in a group. If you've never done it in a group, it's a very powerful thing. And that's one of the ways that we actually have been working with and planning a lot of the things that we've been doing. We've invited the group to come in and share a group awareness and a group energy, because the truth of the matter is, you and I are actually a lot smarter when we're with each other than when we're separate. Believe it or not, we are. We don't sometimes think so. But the reality is, there's more awareness in the room, the more of us are in the room to be aware. And so that's a really powerful understanding of this swarming of creativity in our lives. So today's lesson, I think, really is about us recognizing that we have within us the ability to listen to our intuition in a way that allows different awarenesses come into us, but those can come into us in lots of different ways, and that there is a creative process in our coming together with others in that creative experience. Julia Cameron says that the creative process is a process of surrender and not control. And so a big piece of this is recognizing that we are letting go of our individual understanding to recognize that there's a higher, perhaps, awareness that can come through us as we collectively come together with each other. So what I invite you to do is take some time this week to reflect on and meditate on this understanding, this imagery of swarming, and the ideas coming to you in lots of different ways, and how they might come to you, and how you can participate in that process of the creative process by allowing ideas to flow in the collective ways in life, and seeing the patterns in those, and seeing how you can come together in others of like heart and mind to bring out even more of those spiritual resources of the truth of your divine nature, that Christ self. We have a wonderful opportunity every Sunday to do that, but I suggest that you have that opportunity every day. And just let yourself be open to that understanding that when you go into work, that really is a part of that process also. That all of the people that you're working with are there to help bring about something even more in life. And that's kind of what we're going to play with this week. So have fun with that. Have fun with that process. Let's move into our meditation time. Take a nice deep breath. As you begin to breathe in and out, just begin to feel a sense of peace and relaxation gently flowing from the very top of your head flowing down over your face, down into your neck and shoulders. Feel that peace moving down into your arms and hands and all the way down into your fingertips. Breathing in and out, allowing that flow. Allow that relaxation and peace to flow down your back, down the muscles of your back. Allow yourself to be completely supported by the chair that you're in, just as we allow ourselves to be completely supported by the presence of God right here and now. Feel that peace moving down into your chest and abdomen and down into your hips and legs and all the way down into your feet. It's in a place of peace that we're most open and receptive to the presence of the one heart and mind and our connection with that creative flow. As we breathe in and out, become aware of being in the creative process that we are creating even now. And focus awareness on creating those energies, those experiences, and creating ourselves even in a way that is uplifting, healing, transforming, prospering. Imagine and see yourself experiencing even more of those blessings and yourself as a blessing to and for yourself and to and for those in your world. Let your attention focus and intend to experience even more of your own potential and possibilities as a creative being in life. And let the energy of the heart open and allow yourself to be in that flow, to be a creative power for good, for light, for love, for abundance. And as you hold that awareness, be open to the swarming of divine ideas, attracted by the presence and the power and the energy of your created light, your creative being. Allow them to move and flow and show themselves in just the right and perfect way. And see yourself drawn to others in life that will participate in and harmonize with that knowing of your divine nature and how that can unfold in beautiful ways. See yourself in a collective consciousness, bringing forth the highest good and drawing to you those that are there for you to support in their divine nature and for you to be supported by. And give thanks that those wonderful lights are already being drawn to you now as ideas, as inspiration, as people, as resources. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Blessed Spirit, for that creative flow. Take a nice deep breath. Take another nice deep breath. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes and give thanks. And so it is. Amen.